The MHA manga just came to an end in an epic and emotional fashion, and the 8-year time skip in the final chapter gave us a lot of insights about the new generation of strongest heroes and how strong Deku could become with his new high-tech power-up. We know the new top 5 pro heroes after the time skip, we have a good idea of who else is in the top 10, so let's break it all down right now. If you guys have been enjoying my MHA content over all these years, please leave a like and subscribe right now to support the channel, it helps me out a lot. Now I gotta say that I'm hyped to shout out the sponsor of today's video, Stumble Guys. It's a very fun game available on mobile, Steam, web, Xbox, PS, and soon on Nintendo, and it's free to download on all platforms. You compete against other players to fulfill an objective that may be racing to the finish or being the last one standing. And even me, who's not a big gamer by any means, was able to make it to the last round and come in first place before, which was a blast. And speaking of blasts, Stumble Guys' first anime collaboration is here with My Hero Academia. Check out all these awesome skins, including All Might, Uraviti, Shoto, Shigaraki, Deku, Bakugo, Froppy, and more. My favorites are Frog Girl Froppy and Shoto Todoroki, especially when you equip him with Ice Wall so other players can watch that flex between levels. And you can even use the quirks of your favorite heroes in the new Hero Exam map to help you take down the giant robot like in the anime. It's so cool to be able to overlap your love of anime like MHA with a fun game like Stumble Guys. And they launch big seasonal collaborations with beloved IP for new gameplay modes, like Giant Pac-Man, Hot Wheels Racing, Nerf FPS, SpongeBob World, Monopoly Map, and even the Team Soccer or football games. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description now to play the new My Hero Academia mode in Stumble Guys for free. My Hero Academia Chapter 430, the final chapter of the manga, took us 8 years into the future of the MHA world. After so many years, we know that all of our favorite hero characters became stronger, especially the young UA students who completed their studies, became full-fledged pro heroes, and started surging to the top of the pro hero charts. The only exception is of course Deku, who became quirkless after the events of the final villain war. If you'll recall, the vestiges of One For All went into Shigaraki during the final battle in order to help fight All For One's control of Tomura from the inside. And then once Shigaraki died, the quirks, One For All and All For One, both died with him. Just like All Might after he transferred One For All to Deku at the beginning of the series, Deku did still have some embers of One For All within him after losing the quirk. As far as we know, he was still able to use these embers for a while and he managed to complete the UA Hero course successfully. However, by the time we see Deku as a 25-year-old adult after the 8-year time skip, he has lost all of his embers and he is effectively quirkless once again. As a result, he gave up on his dream of being a pro hero and instead he became a teacher at UA. Now yes, it does suck that Deku wasn't able to become a hero even though practically all of his Class A friends seem to be successful heroes, but at the same time, Deku becoming a UA teacher makes a lot of sense. If you are quirkless in a world full of superpowered quirks, and these quirks just keep getting stronger with each passing generation, then it's gonna be really hard for you as a quirkless hero to compete with the superpowered villains that you're gonna be expected to face. We have to remember that unlike All Might, Deku doesn't have an especially strong physique. Whereas young Toshinori was considered to be incredibly strong even before he gained the ability to use his quirk and became All Might, a quirkless Deku is just a normal guy with a big heart. He doesn't have above average strength, speed, or agility, he just has an incredible determination to help others and a drive to learn and to do his best. After he became quirkless again, Deku decided that he can do the most good by becoming a teacher at UA. Yeah, he was disappointed that he couldn't continue living his dream of being a pro hero, and he did feel a bit lonely at times because his friends were all out doing cool hero stuff and he was just wearing a suit and teaching kids about heroics, but he made his peace with it. Deku felt that he had already lived his dream, no matter how briefly, and he already got the chance to be a hero who inspired millions around the world. The way for him to do the most good now is to become a teacher at UA and help raise and inspire the next generation of heroes. He got to live his dream, and now he can help all his students achieve their goals and live their dreams as well. Again, I thought this made a lot of sense. I think it fits Deku's character because he was always the type of guy who took notes and paid attention to all the details and studied the most out of everyone. And that's because growing up without a quirk, that was literally the only thing that he could do to increase his chances of one day becoming a hero. Now, at the same time as we are learning all this stuff about adult Deku now being a quirkless UA teacher, The final chapter also told us over and over again that technology was evolving rapidly in the world of MHA and that the tech industry was booming. To be fair, the world of MHA has always been pretty advanced technologically, and the events of the story always appear to be taking place in a world that is further along technologically than our own modern world. But even so, the pace of these technological advancements has only increased during the 8-year time skip. So much so that now a lot of students are no longer striving to become heroes. Some still are for sure, and UA certainly doesn't have a shortage of students, but whereas in the past nearly every kid dreamed about being a hero, after the time skip, a lot more students are becoming interested in being inventors or programmers or working in the medical industry and so on. At one point in the final chapter, we see a middle school class and they are being asked by their teacher to decide what kind of career they want to pursue as they move on with their education and head into high school. Out of the 5 students that the chapter focuses in on, 3 want to do things that are not related to becoming a hero. 1 wants to work for a support item designing company that is run by the genius inventor Mei Hatsume. Another wants to be a doctor like Dr. Yoshi. And a 3rd student wants to join the programming company run by Gentle and La Brava. A 4th student and the boy Dai want to join the UA hero course, but Dai is going to have a difficult time getting in because he has a weak quirk. Now that there is a lot less villain activity in the world, there isn't a need to recruit a massive number of heroes, so only the very best and strongest are chosen to join the pro hero ranks. This point that technology is advancing rapidly and that support items are getting better and better is a very important one, so remember that for later. But now let's talk about the new pro hero rankings because the final chapter gave us some extremely valuable information on that front. In particular, we were seemingly given all the information we need to determine the new top 5 pro hero rankings. During a conversation between Deku and Aizawa, who is also still teaching at UA, we learned that Shoto Todoroki is about to overtake Bakugo in the pro hero rankings. This is not necessarily because Bakugo is weaker than Shoto, it is because Bakugo continues to have freakouts and yell at reporters, and in the past this kind of behavior has led to him dropping a few places down in the rankings. We also have to remember what Hawks said in chapter 429 about the new hero ranking system. The rankings no longer reflect only raw strength and popularity, although those will inevitably continue to play a role. After the time skip, the ranking system also takes into consideration if you are a good citizen and a productive member of society. And Bakugo's outbursts are hurting him in that regard. Basically, if you're an effective hero and a good citizen who sets a great example for others, you are more likely to go up in the rankings than someone who is really strong but has a bad reputation and sets a bad example for others. Shoto is also really strong and has an amazing quirk, and although he can still be a bit awkward at times, he treats all his fans equally and with respect, he is calm and measured, unlike Bakugo, and he sets a good example for others, so he will now likely overtake Bakugo in the rankings. Based on the information Deku and Aizawa gave us, we can assume that currently Shoto comes in at number 5 in the top hero rankings, and Bakugo comes in at number 4. But Deku and Aizawa believe that these positions will now be flipped after Bakugo threatens someone for filming him, meaning that Shoto will be at number 4 and Bakugo will be at number 5. Now you might be wondering why I'm saying that Shoto and Bakugo are already ranked so high and that there are only 3 other heroes ahead of them in the rankings. Well, besides the fact that they were already extremely strong before the time skip and now they've had 8 whole years to get even stronger, there are only 3 other heroes that Deku mentions and implies are ahead of Shoto and Bakugo. First up, we have to remember that a lot of the heroes who were ranked near the top before the final villain war are no longer in contention for that spot. All Might and Endeavor both had to retire from pro hero work, and so did Hawks after losing his quirk to All for One during the villain war. Those guys used to be literally the top 3 heroes when the series started, and now they're all out of the picture. Multiple other heroes who were once in the top 10 are now out as well. Yaroi Musha used to be in the top 10, but he decided to retire during the chaos of the villain war. Former number 6 hero Crust was killed back in Jakku. Edgeshot was severely weakened and became a weird snake guy, although maybe he was able to recover after the time skip, but we don't know. Miruko, who was once at number 5, was also severely injured. She lost multiple limbs and she now has to rely on prosthetics. So we have to be prepared for the fact that the new top hero list after 8 years is going to look a lot different. Deku mentions that at some point in the past, Mirio Togata skyrocketed to the top of the charts, surpassing Kamui Woods and Mount Lady along the way. This reveals that Mirio, aka Lemillion, is the number 1 ranked pro hero after the time skip, and since Deku specifically mentions Mirio passing Kamui Woods and Mount Lady on his way to the top position, then we can assume that those 2 are now in positions 2 and 3. Before the last villain war, Kamui Woods had already climbed up to the number 7 spot, and Mount Lady was further back at number 23. However, from what we've learned in the past and from the recap panels in the final chapter, we know that Kamui and Mount Lady are said to be dating, and they've often been working together as a team. They've been extremely successful as a result, and they are often the go-to heroes for everyone to call when some kind of accident or disaster strikes. I'm gonna assume that Kamui is at number 2 and Mount Lady is at number 3 just because Kamui has always been ranked ahead of her in previous rankings, but that's just speculation on my end. Now, it is technically possible that there are some other heroes between Bakugo and Shoto and the top 3, but since only Togata, Kamui, and Mount Lady are mentioned as being ahead of them, I'm just gonna roll with it. I don't see why Deku would only mention these 3 if there are other heroes on the list. With how detailed oriented he is, especially about heroes, I feel like he would have mentioned everyone in the top 5 if there were more of them. I do wonder where Genist and Miruko are currently ranked, because Genist was all the way up at the number 3 spot on the previous chart, and Miruko was at number 5. Assuming they're still heroes after the time skip, I would bet on them also being in the top 10. Frankly, I'm surprised that Miruko isn't already in the top 5, given that she is now using advanced prosthetics that have the potential to make her even stronger, but then again she is about as friendly as Bakugo, so that might actually hurt her in the rankings. Other potential candidates for the current top 10 include Washu, who was at number 8 on the previous chart, Ryukyu, who was at number 10, Gang Orca, who was at number 12, and Shishido, who was at number 13. But we also have the new generation of heroes like Tokoyami and Kirishima, who are extremely famous after the time skip. Their exact rank is not mentioned, but knowing the power of their quirks and their current popularity, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the new top 10. Finally, the last chapter did mention that both Monoma and Honenuki from Class B are currently skyrocketing in the rankings, so they could also be getting close to that top 10. But as you'll know if you've read the final chapter, at the very end of the chapter we get a very wholesome twist. Deku finds out that All Might was able to procure for Deku the kind of advanced battle suit that he had used against All For One during the final war. The battle suit, which can take the form of a suitcase like Iron Man's, was created by Hatsume and Melissa in the US. And it was actually funded by all of Deku's former Class A classmates who wanted to help him become a hero again. Now, this was of course a very heartwarming moment because on the final page of the final chapter, we actually got to see our boy Deku being a hero again with all his Class A friends thanks to that new battle suit. But how strong can a quirkless Deku really be with just a fancy battle suit? Actually, we shouldn't underestimate the power of this battlesuit because it showed itself to be extremely powerful during the last villain war. It is first introduced in chapter 396 when All Might uses the suit, named Armored All Might, though I just call it Iron Might, and he uses it to fight Prime All For One. This was All For One at his peak after he used Ares powers to reverse his own aging. And I guess at the start of this fight he was like a teenager or in his early 20s, so you could say he was like in the prime of his life. Even though you can argue that All For One was already weakened from winning a bunch of fights earlier, and even though in the end All Might needed help to finish All For One off, the battlesuit still showed itself to be incredibly strong. It gave super strength and super speed to a quirkless All Might, and he was even able to replicate the quirk powers of all the Class A students. The fact that a battlesuit was able to allow a quirkless All Might to hold his own against Prime All For One speaks to the immense power of this suit. The average villain that Deku could potentially face would be way weaker than Prime All For One, so the suit would absolutely allow him to be an effective hero. On top of that, Deku's new suit was created after All Might's battle with All For One, and it actually used all the data from this battle to make the new suit stronger. Deku's suit is like the new and improved 2.0 version of the battle suit. And since it's been 8 years since the original was made, we can assume that technology has advanced quite a bit in those years. As I mentioned earlier, the final chapter goes out of its way to emphasize that modern technology, and especially support item technology, is advancing very rapidly. And so it isn't much of a stretch to think that Deku with the new battlesuit will be even stronger than All Might was in his battlesuit. But how strong can Deku really get? Realistically, he may not be able to get as strong as the number 1 hero Mirio, because Mirio has an incredibly strong quirk and he also trains extremely hard to be able to use it effectively. So we have to face the fact that with just a battlesuit and without any supernatural powers of his own, Deku will be at a disadvantage against someone who has both an epic superpower and also modern technology in the form of support items. But I still think that with his determination and with the rapid advance of modern technology, and also with his status as an exemplary hero and citizen, Deku could hit the top 10 rankings eventually and maybe even scratch the top 5. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Let me know down in the comments. What do you think of the new top hero rankings, and what's your guess for the current top 10? Write it down right now and let's compare answers. If you're looking for another MHA video to watch right now, check out my full review of the final chapter, link on screen and in the description. Thanks again to Stumble Guys for sponsoring this video. Check them out right now, link in the description. Downloading is completely free on all platforms, and you can now use your favorite MHA characters and play the hero exam map in-game, which is absolutely awesome. If you enjoyed this video and my coverage of MHA for all these years, leave a like and subscribe right now, it means a lot. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.